On this episode, we're going to talk about age in the workplace, snarky one-liners, and loyalty among business people. I spend the majority of my time trying to figure out how to help other people get what they're really after. I do this by speaking at events, writing books, working with coaching students, and sharing a lot of content. All of this creates a ton of questions from people that I can't always get back to, but now I can. This is the place to come where you ask your questions and I'll answer them. All right, everybody, what is going on? Jared James here for episode 2 of hashtag JJoffthecuff, where you ask your questions, I answer them about just about anything. I mean, you can ask about business, personal, sales, entrepreneur, like whatever you want to ask about, you ask about. You know what's funny? I actually just got excited that we're doing, episode 2 as if we got picked up, which obviously we didn't. We control whether this happens or not. So hope you guys are enjoying this, guys. Make sure you're sharing these with people, asking your questions, because I've always loved this, guys. We get a lot of questions, but this gives us a chance to really answer them, okay? So let's get right into our questions. We've got a few questions today. First question is from Realtor JW. This was on Twitter, and Realtor JW wanted to know, do you believe that we can have a successful business having another full-time job? Here's the thing, guys. So I do this kind of off the cuff. That's why we call it JJ off the cuff, right? It fits what we're doing here. My real question is this. Why would you have a full-time job if you have a successful business? That's really my question, right? I mean, you generally don't have something else when you're happy with what you have. I mean, generally speaking, what's going on is if it were that successful, you wouldn't have the full-time job. So I think I get where you're coming from. I think I understand that you want to be doing what it is that you're talking about full-time, and so you want it to be successful, but you have to have a full-time job on the side in order to make that work. If that's the case, yes, it can become successful, but I don't believe that long term you can be doing both, because it's just not possible. And again, why would you be doing it if it were possible? There's only so many hours in a day, right? I mean, if I am very happy in my marriage, I don't go get married to someone else, right? If I love my job, I don't go get a new one. If I love my car, you see what I'm saying? Like there's all these different things that are running through my head. So I think I get the point of your question, but I don't know that things ever really hit their full potential when you're doing something else that's taking up all your time, because ultimately it pulls you away from that, okay? So that's kind of my simple answer to that question. Let's look at the next question. Next question is from Melody Casper. It's kind of a long one. It says, why is it and at what age is it that an employer decides age over experience matters? This is a great question. I've been a business owner, general manager, office manager, president of Chamber of Commerce, a certified home buyer educator, but 3 years ago my husband developed cancer and my grant money ran out at the same time. Blessing I could stay home with him. He passed away this past May, and now I'm on the job hunt. I was told when one door closes, another open, but my take on that now is true, but when you're 66 trying to open the door, there is a 22-year-old holding it shut. It's a great question. I considered getting my realtor's license, but at this point I can't even afford the classes. What is your perspective on age in the workplace? I live in rural Oklahoma. This is a great question, because a lot of times when I'm answering these questions, I want to give you, there's a part of me, just the human side, that's like, okay, I know what they want to hear. But then there's this other side of me that also has to understand the perspective I'm coming from. And it's just true. When you talk about age in a workplace, are you going to hire the 22-year-old who has the exact same ability to do what it is that the 66-year-old does? It depends on the type of job you're in, right? If you're from a technological standpoint, I take the 22-year-old every other day of the week because they've grown up in that world. You named a lot of experience, and so the jobs you're looking for would obviously need that experience. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what just popped into my head. I have to answer these from my perspective, right? And I have to answer these coming from the context that I have created in my life, and here's what I think. This is why I have always been sales-related, market-related, entrepreneurial-related, is because I control. I am paid according to what I'm worth. You are asking the question from the perspective of an employer kind of checking off what's going on and what they're looking for in order to hire you. And yet my perspective would be that if you're truly as good as what it sounds like you're listing yourself as, I would want to be in a field where I'm paid according to what I'm worth. So maybe where I started a company where I get the same base as the 22-year-old, but then through commissions and otherwise, I prove my value over the 22-year-old if it truly is there. This is one of those cases where there's a romantic answer and then there's a real answer, in the sense that if you truly are better, it's going to come through. And maybe you have to stop looking for jobs that you want them to pay you according to your experience already. And instead, because think about it, when someone pays you according to experience, they're paying you because they expect you to produce more because of your experience. Maybe you have to bet on yourself and take a job where you are paid less, like a 22-year-old, but your experience takes over and now you make more money because you are paid according to what you're worth, and there are commissions and other bonus structures in there. That's what I would do. It's what I've always done. It's why I sold real estate. It's why, because I knew that according to my resume, I was going to get a 3% raise every day at certain types of jobs, which may be the types of jobs you're going to. But according to my ability, if I could just rhyme with resume for a second, according to my ability, I was going to double my income, triple my income every single year because it didn't matter what my resume said. Okay, that's my answer to you. Next up, Nelson Taylor asked the question, simple, non-smarmy, I'm not even sure what that means, one-liner that agents can use to ask for referrals. Great question. I think you mean snarky. I was a spelling bee champ, not a vocabulary champ, okay? So here's what I would tell you. This is why context matters so much, because I think that you're failing to see the world we live in right now, and that world has so changed that I don't know that we live in a world anymore where you follow scripts where you ask for business if you don't have the context with that person to be able to do so. We're in a world right now where people are so trained and they're so conditioned right now to be turned off and know when you're going for the close and know that something in them clams up and just goes, no, 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 and starts to do that, right? The example I gave recently was like going into a furniture, a store, and you walk in, and even though you're there for furniture, when someone says, "Can I help you?" you go, "No, just looking around," because something in you just kind of not into that. But when you understand this world we live in now, and you understand what social does for us and the ability to touch people in so many different ways, on so many different levels, so many different times without actually being offensive or snarmy, if that was the word again, our ability to do that in many cases today doesn't even put us in a position where many times we have to overly ask for the business, especially when it's not appropriate. Because when you build the context to a place that it needs to be, there's many more opportunities to ask, and it feels right to do so. But even more so when you build the context in the way that you're able to in today's world, in today's context, most of the time, you don't even have to. Like, I had someone recently with our marketing department basically saying, "When are you signing us up? You never even brought it up to me. When are you going to sign us up?" Because our context was so great, we had so many different ways to connect and everything else, that it just became the natural thing that happened, right? And so I think you need to fully understand the world we live in and the context at which we are living, if that makes sense to you, okay? We got to change our strategies a little bit. It's not 1992 anymore. Things have changed, okay? Next question. Robert Nemeth. If I say these wrong, guys, I apologize. Robert Nemeth. Hi, Jared. I'm just getting back into real estate. My wife is also going to become a new agent. We wanted to reconnect with our sphere of influence without seeming like it's all about us. How should we approach them? Facebook, direct mail, email, or call? And what should we say? Two things. This follows, by the way, something I've been saying a lot lately, which is stop being afraid to be a salesperson, right? I mean, we all want to be paid like salespeople, but we want to act like customer service people and act like we're not really there to sell them something. Goes back to my previous question, the context. But you need to understand as well that this may be the greatest time you have, the greatest opportunity to actually mention business, and it doesn't bother anybody because it's a natural thing to do. It's the context is there. When you're contacting people, your sphere of influence and others, and just letting them know, just wanted to let you know, I'm in the real estate game now, we're selling, so if you know anybody, whatever, we just wanted to make sure you knew we were here. People don't have an issue with that conversation. In fact, it's a natural conversation. Here's what's going on in our lives. It's one of the few times you can actually talk about yourself and they're not going to care that much, right? They're going to be like, "Oh, thanks for letting us know. That's great. Actually, so-and-so's looking." Actually, you need to capitalize on that moment while, just like I answered the previous question, understand the context of the world we live in, meaning going forward, once you do that initial announcement, you need to focus now long-term what's going to happen from there on out. Because what most people who ask this question are going to do, they're going to reach out to them once and never contact them again and say, "Oh, look, it doesn't work, see?" But that was your fault, not their fault. You need to contact them up front. You need to get them in your database. You need to follow up quarterly. You need to create some kind of value for them. You need to run contests that say, whoever gives me a referral gets, the first person who gives me a referral gets a $100 gift card to this. Run contests with them and make it fun. You need to create local deals with local businesses that relate to them for when they say, "My realtor, Robert Nemeth, sent me, they're going to get a discount, and now you have a reason to call them and say, hey, if you're going to go to Namco for your pool or something like that, mention my realtor, Robert Namath, and you'll get 20% off. You need to create these kinds of things, but you need to think broader spectrum and longer term than just what do we do right now. Because that microwave mentality, and I'm not saying you have it because I know that I don't see the full how you are or what you're thinking, but if you keep it there, you're going to be in trouble. It's not just about this touch, but you have the ability right now to be more about you than you will going forward. You better have a long-term plan to stay in front of them and ultimately make it about them. Great question. Next question. Annette Debiz, something, D-E-B-I-S-Z. I apologize, I probably butchered it. But believe me, it's probably not the first time in your life. You already know that. My last name is James, okay? Everybody thinks it's my first name until I tell them, just like my cousins LeBron and Rick. It says, hi Jared, I am a 2-year new agent that has experience with working with builders in another capacity. How can I protect myself with finding teardowns in land without a listing agreement during the due diligence stage? I'm worried that they may go directly to the owners once I start the due diligence if they are interested in a lot. The easiest question to this, depending on what state you're in, is that you can get a buyer brokerage agreement, which protects you. The second easiest answer to this is to stop worrying. If you are working with clients that you are scared to death they're going to go behind your back, you are working with the wrong clients and you're creating the wrong value for them. Because if you're creating value for these people, I don't know what kind of scumbags you're working with that are going to have all this value created and then constantly go around your back. But that's a you issue. Pick the right people, provide the proper amount of value, and then stop worrying. Because some people are going to screw you. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. It's not going to make sense. What do I say in my office all the time? Don't try to rationalize the irrational, right? How often do I say that? Stop trying to rationalize the irrational. So if somebody irrationally goes behind your back and screws you in some way from a business perspective, that doesn't mean everyone's going to do that. There's probably some kind of history here, something happened to you, but do not let that affect every other relationship you have because they can feel that, okay? Because just like you don't trust them, they're going to not trust you. And that whole pyramid, that whole circle of whatever has got to change, okay? So guys, those are our questions today. If you have a question, I want to answer them. Hashtag JJoffthecuff. You can send them by Twitter or Instagram at JaredJamesToday. You can send them on Facebook, facebook.com/JaredJamesToday. You could even record a YouTube video if you want. Make sure you're subscribed on there, guys. Share this with as many people as you can. I can't wait to answer your questions. Talk to you soon.